This is the Let's Talk About the Deep Stuff podcast. I'm your host, Sean Kneese. And on this show, we have off the cuff and candid conversations about the bigger topics today. And today, joining me is artist Neilio Bugallo. That's his artist name. His real name's Jorge. How's it going?
Yeah. How's it going,
Yeah,
man? How are you, Sean?
good. How are you? How you been? It's been
Good.
well. I guess we all, most people, I feel like, have the Jesus look at some point. Like now, you're going through your Jesus phase with the huge beard and the
Yeah, because when you saw me in school, I didn't have this long beard. I had kind of like a little bit of a short beard growing, you know. But I don't know. I just grown it out, and I don't know. I'm just lazy to shave it all off. I guess you know what I mean. Plus, it fits nice, you know. So
Yeah, I've been going with the stash lately. Like I've had the beard before,
yeah.
but never grew it out. Like, definitely. But
When I met
today,
when I met you,
oh,
you had the no stash, but you had the long hair.
oh yeah, the
The
long hair, yeah, like
yeah.
the metal look,
Yeah, man.
metal
Yeah.
shirts.
Yeah. A long
Yeah,
time.
those were the CCM, the County College
Oh,
Morris
yes.
days way back in the day.
Yeah, that was a long time ago, man.
Yeah, hard to believe it was like over a decade or so.
Dude, yeah. It was
Yeah,
yeah, that was a long time ago. Wow. Now that I was actually thinking about that the other day, and I was like, that is a long time from now. And it sometimes it seems like certain things just seem like it was yesterday. You know what I mean? But
yeah, and you don't feel that much different, and then you're like, wait, has that much changed? And then you're looking, there like, wait, a lot's changed, but
a lot
you
has
just don't
changed.
realize.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
But
And well, the main topic we're gonna get today is in like it's a topic I know that interests you, is like how the darker side of humanity, and like, are we all capable of evil? And I know your art focuses on the macabre a lot. I mean, if you want to mention a little bit about your art, just to kind of like plug your stuff a bit, let people know.
yeah, I tend to do I mean, I love doing artwork with like animals and dinosaurs and stuff, but I do like to go into the macabre sense of things sometimes. Excuse me. Um Monsters always interest me. Creatures, the like demonic creatures, all the things that that us as humans have just created to like scare us is always like interests me in my artwork. You know, I can draw something very beautiful in a sense and nice like certain animals and dinosaurs, majestic stuff, but then I can go on the very dark side of things and draw creatures that just seem to like come from the deepest realms of your nightmares. It's just the art range that I have. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think like you've made this point that like the real monsters are like human beings, and like I guess
hmm
those things we make in horror movies kind of can represent like aspects within us, or like in a way.
Basically, yeah, it's a mirror. Basically, it's so um the thing is like one thing they mention is when they catch a certain killer or murderer or something out there, they always something you always notice in documentaries and in interviews is like he was a normal guy, he didn't have fangs and he didn't look all disheveled and blah blah, because that's where our brain immediately goes, because we can't fathom the thought of other human being doing that much harm to another human being, even though we see it all the time. But you can't, like, when you're walking down the street or something, just imagine every person there is a potential person that's gonna just, like,
Yeah,
kill you or maim you
yeah,
or some sort. So your mind doesn't register that, and so when you think of somebody being like a monster or somebody that did something so wrong, you always picture them being like grotesque and
yeah.
ugly and just
And
like it
sometimes
gives you
someone could appear that way, and they could actually be good and not be
be a
that.
good person. Yeah, exactly. I've met plenty of people in my life that have not the greatest appearances or something. I mean, people that out in the street and life and everything, and they might not look the most approachable, and they end up being the people with like the best hearts and being the nicest people out there. And sometimes a clean cut person that's all you know has like this certain image they keep of themselves is the one that's ends up being the monster in real life. You know?
Yeah. Well, sometimes like for serial killers, or like or other kinds of sociopaths, like that's like a
hmm
cover too, is to
Yeah.
appear so normal so they can get away with things.
It's like they call it like mirroring, they or mimicking, where they don't know how like certain feelings and emotions happen with regular people, so they mimic certain things to kind of blend in. And I was honestly funny enough, well, not funny enough, but coincidentally enough, that I was listening to a podcast and they were speaking about um Herbert. I think it's Herbert Mullen, and he was somebody that was active at the same time as Ed Kemper back in, I think it was like the late 60s, 70s. I'm not sure what the timeline, but they're both from Santa Cruz, and they were doing their harm at the same time, which is what the psychologist on the podcast is trying to figure out, why two of the most infamous killers came from the same area, basically. So what they were speaking of, that there was a dinner party that they had with Herbert Mullen, and he was young. He was like 15 or something, and their parents are describing their son sitting there quietly and mimicking what others are doing, and that he would go into this sort of trance. And it's really strange to think that, but that's things that they do. It's almost like they're trying to absorb humanity, because within themselves are not really human, you know?
Like
I don't
they
know.
had to kind of like fake empathy or fake.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It's a whole. It's like they play Halloween every day. That's what it is. It's like a
Hmm.
Halloween all year round for them. They always have to fake who they really are, because who they really are is not good, you know? So,
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to talk about is like, is it nature or nurture? Is it like, are we all
mhm,
capable of being evil and doing evil given the right circumstances?
right. Well, one thing we should say before anything, we're both not psychologists. We're
Yeah.
both, this is just our opinions on things.
Just like
Yeah.
kind of talking off the cuff.
Yeah, because sometimes there's hey, wait a second, you guys are not doctors, and we're not.
Yeah.
But it's an interest that I have in how the mind works. I've always been um just fascinated how humans can be certain ways to each other, animals, and our earth. And it's like some things correlate perfectly, like how humans should be, and then other ones it's like what happened there. And that's that's basically like, how to explain that? The human versus nature nurture shit. Nature versus nurture, what you were saying. Um, it's a bit of both from what I've like listened on a lot of documentaries and podcasts, and the things I've read. It's never just one or the other. Certain things from both elements will create a person. Some people were born with bad tendencies, but are able to suppress those bad tendencies and grow to be, you know, a good member of society. And there are others that, are abused and treated badly and then turn into those vagrants of society. But there are others that have been abused, have been raped, have been, you know, harmed and bullied and stuff like that, and they're fine. They do carry that trauma with them, but they do grow to become successful members of society. They don't go and abuse someone else. So the thing is, like, where's that trigger where this person could be a good person, right, by society standards, and what is the trigger that makes this one? They both have the same upbringing, but this one goes off to do bad things. This one stays in in good things. And that is the thing that like we really
Yeah.
is that's the
Could
constant
it
debate.
be that maybe one had a certain figure that was a good influence? Like maybe one figure to them was a good
Maybe.
influence and the other didn't.
I mean, they have said that family has a lot to do with it too. How you grow up, who raises you. If you have, what I mean, like for example, another thing is like people that are racist. Like, is that something that you just are born with? No. You grow up with that. You grow up in that environment. And you have racist parents. You have racist grandparents, or you have racist friends, or community of racists. You're gonna grow up most likely to be racist because you're gonna be listening to what they say all the time about certain people of color, certain people of different ethnicities, different to you. So when you see that different person, you don't you don't approach them with like a friendly face. You're already, oh, that's who they're talking about when you meet them, and immediately
Yeah.
back away without
Like
learning that.
you see
Yeah,
they see the race, they don't see the individual.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, and that is something that is taught, and, you know what I mean, it's a bit different, but it's like it's that environment creates who you are, you know?
Yeah. But
And
people
people
can also choose to kind of go against their upbringing too, and kind of just be
that's true
like,
too. See, so it's always teeter-totting, like seesaw all
yeah,
the time, because it could be all the factors are there for this person to become somebody awful in society, and then they just drift off to the good side of things, and they don't do any of that. There's plenty of children, like, for example, like, children of, like, serial killers, like, what's his name? The BTK guy. Um, I forget
oh
his name.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I forget Dennis Rader, I think it was his
Dennis
name.
Rader, there you go.
Yeah,
His
he
daughter.
was like an upstanding guy in the community. He had a
Mhm.
like he
He
was
was a
like
he was in a
popular at the church.
church and everything, and
Yeah,
look at that, like, he was a monster, but his daughter wrote a book. My father was a serial killer, and his daughter has no, like, from what we know, like, I don't we there's no evidence out there that she's out there killing anybody, but from what we know, she didn't follow her dad's route, and she's his daughter. Now, that Dennis Rader, I don't know really his upbringing, um, but I do know that he just had that certain, um, like, tick, or like, what was it that, Ed Kemper called it? Vocation, that he wanted to do that stuff. And that was inside him, but as well, it could have easily been, something up when he was growing up, something he saw, something he experienced, and it just changed his life. Because that's how, who was it? Ramirez. Ramirez growing up, he was
the Night Stalker, the serial
the
killer. Yeah,
yes, Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker. He had always had kind of like a little bit of a messed up brain, but the thing that threw him over the edge that made him into the killer that he was looking at his cousin's photos of Vietnam, of all like I think they had photos of them raping women, they had photos of them killing,
yeah,
and it was just, you know, it was a lot for a kid at his age to see. And the thing is, most people when they see that stuff, they're turned off from it. They're not invested in it. He had the opposite effect. He was invested in it. He liked what he saw. He's like, "Oh, that's what I want
yeah.
to do."
So it's like
And then he
it's
ended
like
up doing it.
you think that another person, like another kid, like with a good heart, could have had a messed up uncle like that and still been a good person, and he just went that
Yeah,
way because he was.
yeah. It's very strange to really pinpoint it. And as much psychology as they've done, they've gotten really good at um like narrowing down who it could be when something happens. Like, they can, in certain aspects, they can say, like, a suspect could be this certain race, interested in these certain things. They've been good on that. The thing is, we don't, from what I know, I might be wrong, most likely, because I'm not in the field itself, but I'm just an interested fellow in that. Is that we don't really know where it kind of like starts out. If it is like something in their brain as a child, or if it's when they're growing up, something happens, and it could be a mix of both. And it's hard to predict that they're going to grow up to be this type of person, you know. And that's kind of almost like if we did, if we were able to actually find that out, it'd be almost like Minority Report if you think about it. The crime hasn't happened, but the chance of it happening. I don't know. Have you ever seen that one? Tom Cruise?
Tom Cruise. What was it called again?
Minority Report?
I didn't see it, but I know like what the basic story is. I think that was a Philip K. Dick story too, right? Like just like Blade Runner was based off Philip K. Dick, the sci-fi writer.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Whatever
yeah.
it is in there.
I don't know if it was. I know Spielberg directed it. Um, but it was pretty much like they had like these three like psychic twins or triplets or whatever, and they were able to predict when somebody was gonna do a crime. So Tom
Oh
Cruise
yeah,
and
then
his crew.
I think I remember
Mhm.
hearing about that concept. Like they arrest them because they knew they were going
The
to
thing
yeah.
is, he didn't do it though. So that's the question of morality. Now, is there a
Because
chance
like,
that
how
he
many times
would?
have people thought like, "Oh, I'd like to kill that person," but then they don't do it. It's
Exactly. So that's the thing. It's like, eh, if we were able to prevent these deaths, right, or these murders, right, but there is a chance that they might not do it. Do we still send out a team like that if we had that type of technology? It's like a morality thing because then you can have 100 people that are in prison innocently because they never did anything. They might have thought about it, or there might be
yeah.
like a
Well,
certain
and that could be
chance.
abused too if they had something like that. You
Oh
know, they
yeah,
could
because
just
then
like, yeah,
they can tell, a certain politician doesn't like you or something like that. They can have that. Oh well, you were gonna do this. It's a very it it all depends in who hands that technology or that law enforcement is held in. You know what I mean? Who
yeah.
decides that?
Well, I
Because
think it's also people can be led to do evil if like society or authority considers whatever the evil is to be right. Because like there was a study, the Milgram experiment,
mm,
where they had a bunch of participants like they were doing this job. It was in the 60s it was done. And the people who like they had this job, they were told by the person they were working for to shock this person with volts.
mm,
And like they kept having to raise the volt. And most people, even though the person cried out in pain, since an authority figure was telling them to keep pressing the shock button, like they kept doing it, and only a couple were like, "Hey, I don't want to do this," but like most of them kept going with it because it was an authority figure telling them to do it. So I think that's another thing, like like how you see in
power.
like Nazi Germany or something like that. When
Hmm.
it's the authority and it's like the society is telling you something's right, then it's hard to get away from that, even if it's wrong, even if it's immoral.
That's very true because we're dealing with things like that right now in the world as it is. Like there's certain things that are happening where depending on where you stand, you either stand on this side of wrong things or this side of wrong things because it almost feels like there's no right anymore. Everything is just it's
Yeah.
going, you know?
Well,
Um,
it's hard for people to condemn like someone from their own side and like see that like two things could be wrong at the same time.
mhm,
It's like, people lack nuance with that kind of thing. People side with their team or their
mhm.
tribe or whatever it is, people like them. So, or people who think
Yeah,
like that.
exactly. Because it's yeah, like you said, the best word right there is tribe mentality, basically. You just, you all kinda agree that even though maybe internally you're like, "I don't know if this is right," but no, not tribe mentality, what am I talking about? Herd mentality. You know?
Yeah.
When one it like that theory of her mentality is like one individual can have his own thought process, own thinking mind, but when you're like in a herd of people and one person starts running, you're like, "Ugh," and you start running too, and then everybody else starts
Yeah.
running. It's all nobody stands there for 1 second. It's like, why are we running? No, everybody just does it.
Yeah.
And
But then it can only
I,
change with the one person who's like, "Why are we running?" Because like for so many
mm-hmm,
years, people accepted slavery is right until, and then
as
like
a right, yeah,
abolitionists were like considered radicals and crazy, like the John
mm-hmm,
Browns and Nat Turners were considered like crazy and radical. But then
yeah,
because they made that radical change, now that's the norm. Like most people would say slavery's wrong. So,
of course,
yeah,
but it just in all honesty, I think all that happened in a sense, it's you know, slavery in that sense is been abolished, but it hasn't been abolished everywhere else. We do speak of like slavery like it was like a million years ago. It was what, like maybe 100, couple. When was the last freed slave? It was like the 1800s, right?
yeah, so, somewhere in there, yeah,
Yeah, I don't think it was that long ago that people were still enslaved in this country. But that doesn't mean that that slavery was just abolished on the world. Like American slavery was American slavery, but every single like human being, ancestor, or like nationality, have all been enslaved in somewhere form in history. Now, African Americans or Africans at the time, it was like it's like the main source that we go to, but it hasn't gone away. There's slavery right now going on in China. There's slavery right now happening in Africa, and it's just like there's just so much shit going on. Wait, I can curse on here, right?
Yeah, this is
Okay.
uncensored. So.
All right, good. Yeah, yeah. Because a regular other podcast I can't, and I'm always bleeped out. But uh, it's just it's a fucking mess. You know what I mean? Um, and right now the biggest uh like the biggest money making thing in the world right now is slavery in a different term of human trafficking. That's number one. That's like that's everywhere, man. There's children, it's women, it's
Yeah,
men, all ages. It's happening all over the world.
yeah.
And you know what I mean?
We had
We're
prominent
seeing it.
figures here involved in it.
Oh
We had
my god. Yeah. I don't know if we can say names because maybe I don't know. But we all know a certain individual is in some trouble right now.
I mean, I think, yeah, I
And
mean, I think we could say Epstein, but the others probably not as much, like the
yeah,
politicians.
yeah, because it's still ongoing. But Epstein, yeah, definitely. Epstein was a real piece of shit. And you know what I mean? The thing with Epstein though, he he had like higher up friends, you know what I mean? Um he had friends in high places, and that's why unfortunately we never got to see him go to court and reveal all these friends or whatever. Because you know, he hung himself. But you know, I don't um but that like look at that, man. That guy went he did that for I don't even know how long. He
Yeah,
was taking all those girls to the island and
and
and for
the amount of people that like saw and stayed quiet, just 'cause you like when you have money like that, it's
Mhm.
like you can do anything. But
It's what they like to say, it's something that they all know about, but it's like what's the word for that? Like a well-kept secret or an open secret that they all know about, you know? And it's everywhere. Like, did you see that documentary, Quiet on Set, the Nickelodeon one?
I don't think so. No, what was that?
Mm. So, this is all in the documentary. So, basically, what happened is that Nickelodeon, when it first started out, um, they started out with the cartoons and stuff, but then they started making shows with kids, and they had a couple of weird people on set with the children, and those weird people turned out to be predators. There's three that were on set. One of them turned out to be the worst one because he sexually abused one of the stars from Drake and Josh, and the guy came out after all these years to tell his story finally, and it was Drake Bell. And Drake Bell went out there and told the story. And the thing is, like, this is something that everyone kind of knows in that industry, that there's like just mass amount of like sexual abuse happening. Look at Weinstein, man. Weinstein,
Yeah,
he came
I
out
think, and then Me
and
Too only scratched like the surface of that. Like it was
that
so
was
yeah,
yeah. It's
yeah,
see, and now we have somebody else right now that's being investigated, and it's just like why I know people are shocked, but when you're a person like myself, where like I've read and just seen so much of this being reported on all the time by certain celebrities and people that were in the industry and then got out, and they're like, the things I've seen, you see it everywhere, and I'm not really shocked by all of it. I'm like, that's just how they are, and no one's doing anything about it. You know, they've it's an industry of just awful shit. And it's and then they make movies to try to like. I mean, they've been making movies every once in a while or shows with children or something. They're trying to almost like kind of make us desensitize. Can't say the word, but you know what I mean. Um, to the thought of things of that sort. You know, You see it in on all media and everything. It's all fucked up, man. It's disgusting, you know? Like, there was a movie not too long ago. What was it? The one with, what's her name? The girl that played Wednesday? Jenny
Is Jenny
Ortega?
Ortega or
Yeah, Jenny Ortega. She did a movie or whatever, and there's a scene in it where this, the guy from the Lord of the Rings, one of the hobbits, he's a way older dude. He's definitely, like, in his 50s, 60s or something, and she's, like, I don't know, like, 20-something years old, and they do a scene where, like, the teacher, like, has they don't show it, but they infer it in the movie or whatever, and it was a big everybody was like, "Why are they doing a scene like that? Blah, blah. Why
so
are
it
they doing
wasn't
a
even
scene like
shown as
that?"
like this is a bad thing. It was like
Yeah, it was shown almost like I don't know if they were trying to do a love story or something.
you know what show
It's
makes me kind of uncomfortable in that way is
which one?
Euphoria because like there's so much like
I've never seen it, but I've heard about it. It's pretty rough,
yeah.
right?
Because, like, even if it's adults playing them, like, why are they sexualizing characters that are supposed to be, like, high school kids and, like, having full-grown adults having sex with kids and
Dude, who was famous for that was the guy that did the movie Kids. Did you ever see his other
Oh,
movie, Ken
Larry Clark,
Park?
yeah, he's a bit more, indie. I don't know if, like, most people would know who he is, but, like, I
Dude,
know who he is because, like, if you're into, like, film and stuff,
yeah,
you'll know who
yeah.
Larry Clark is, but
You ever seen his movie Ken Park?
a long time ago, yeah. I always thought it was his weird obsession with kids was kinda freaky, but
What the hell was that, man?
yeah,
Like all the actors in that film were adults. They were like just 18 or just 19, but they were all playing like 16 and 17-year-olds, and they're having straight up sex on film. And it's like, if these are supposed to be portrayed as children, then what the fuck are you doing, man? You're sexualizing these
yeah.
children. It's
Well, and
gross, man.
Woody Allen kinda did it has that weird thing too, like, he'll have, like, a really
Yeah.
young girl with, like, the older guy. I know he had, like, a weird thing with his daughter and stuff too, but
Yeah, man. He like married his I think it was his stepdaughter, right? He ended up marrying her or
yeah,
messing around with her or something. I don't know. It's so
yeah. I
weird.
almost wonder if, like, is there, like, more people out there that have these, like, weird like,
Movies?
and, like, this kind of, inhuman or perverted side, and, like, when they get rich and famous, it's like, "Okay, now I can just let it all out because nobody
I
could
I've
stop."
I I've said that before. I feel like one thing that I've always thought is like the more money you have, like to a certain extent, like I don't mean like, oh, you're well off or you got like 100K in your bank. No, I mean like millions and millions. The more powerful and like um untouchable you feel. So you feel and like let's put it this way. For me and you, right? I'm not a rich person, and I don't know, Sean. I don't know if you've hit the lottery since I met you, but
Not quite
yeah,
yet, I'm working out, but
yeah. So like, so basically, like, if we go to like an exotic place like Brazil or like I don't know Egypt or something like that, that's a big trip. That's a lot of money. Blah blah, and it'll probably be like a big trip that I won't go on another big trip for like 5 years. These people that have that type of money do trips like this and shit like this all the time. So if what is extravagant for us is daily routine for them. So what do you do when you get that bored and you're already kind of weird? You start doing fucked up shit like they're doing. You get bored and they start doing, let's see what else I can fucking do. You know what I mean? What else can I
yeah.
fucking do? So mm,
Especially if
I
I
don't know.
guess if you do it to, like, people that don't have any power and you have all this power too, like, that's probably what the yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a big reason for a lot of these serial rapists and serial murderers that came out from the 70s and 80s. And there's quite interesting before I go into that, there's quite interesting a theory that I read not too long ago that they're trying to see the if there's this link between the influx of like serial killers and serial rapists and serial murderers, whatever, in that era, because there was a lot in that era, like 60s, 70s, 80s. There's just like an influx of them. It was like one every day on TV, right? Um, that if it had to do with lead, actually, like when they were kids, there was lead in the houses, and then maybe lead had to do with something changing the brain chemistry. But they're not 100% on that. It's just a theory that one doctor's working on, but it's pretty interesting. Anyways, what I'm saying is, most of these guys, when they do those things, it's about power, the power they have over the victim. A couple of them are all, like, in certain interviews, will literally tell you about how the lights go out when they're doing that to a human being. You know what I mean? Who was it that was saying that? The Iceman. That what was his? I can't remember his name, but he was the hitman
Richard
for.
Kolinsky, yeah.
Yeah, him, man. He was talking about he sat there just like this and was just like, "Yeah, I did it. It was great." Like, cold, and just explaining everything in detail. And one of the things he said, he's like, "Yeah, it was the lights go out and you're choking them out. It's a little, you know." And it's like, what the fuck? And that's what that power trip they have over us. That's what they like, you know. Uh, it the thing is, like, a person that doesn't have that mind will never understand why they do the things they do.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how the human mind works, but I'll never get it. I'll never
Yeah.
understand why they do what they do. You know what I mean?
And,
And
and,
there
and I
and there's
know,
people.
oh, yeah, you can finish your point.
No,
What were
go
you going to
ahead.
say?
No, go ahead. You were
I was
saying.
saying that, because, like, I guess that kind of made me think of, like, another point I wanted to bring up was that, like, Rousseau and Locke, Locke was that, humans are inherently bad and that society helps keep them in check. And Rousseau was
Mm,
more that, that people can be capable, that people are inherently good and society corrupts them. Do you think it's both, or is it sometimes a little bit of both? I think sometimes it could go either way. Like sometimes people can be born bad, and then sometimes people can become bad because of society, either because the society, like, things that are immoral or normal in that society, or they've been hurt by the society, and then that kind of turns them to be bad too.
I think it's a melting pot of all of that, basically. It just depends on the person. Because everybody takes everything in a different way. What you may feel comfortable is for you, another person might feel like that is not what I like to do, kind of thing. So every human has their own, you know, picadillos and things that they like.
Yeah,
And I feel like certain things that can attribute to someone's life can create different outcomes. So if we go by that would mean that, like, bad thing happens in my life, I go out for revenge, I go out doing all this crazy stuff. That's not necessarily true, but to a certain other person, that might be what makes them feel better, is to do those bad things. Now, somebody else would be like, well, that happened. I'm at peace with it. I'm gonna move on. So it's, and society as well, yes, has a big um influence on a lot that we do, but I think sometimes we, like, I don't know. It's a loaded question. It's hard because you have to analyze environment, you have to
yeah,
analyze parenting, analyze brain function, analyze how they were raised, what school,
mm,
what, like location in the country, or what country. It's
yeah.
like an
I feel
element of
I feel like
everything.
Joker. Did you like the movie Joker? I feel like that kind of dived into that a
Oh
little
yeah,
bit.
no,
Yeah,
I love the movie Joker. I just honestly, I thought they could have even not even had the Joker in it, and just make it a movie about somebody with mental
yeah. Oh, so you
illness.
think it would have been better because it wasn't really like you don't really think he
Yeah,
was like the Joker, I guess. So.
no, because but this is going on comic book nerd stuff
Yeah.
though.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Um, there's no Batman, and everyone in the Batman lore, or most people, I would say, will agree with me when I say the Joker is there because of Batman. Batman was first, then the Joker came around. So if you switch it the other way around, and not only that, the Joker in this movie, he's like in his 40s, maybe 50s almost.
Yeah, like,
Because
was he gonna be, like, in a nursing home when Batman's
dude,
fighting him?
yeah, dude, Bruce Wayne is a kid. He's like
Yeah.
he's at least like I would say, what is he like 10 in that movie, 11? You know,
Yeah.
and I like the fact that when they off the Wayne's parents or whatever, the guy says the same thing the Joker says. You get what you deserve or whatever, right? But it doesn't make any sense in the lore. So I know it's an Elseworld story, so I'll leave it as that. But it was a good film on the aspect of mental illness, of how like that can certain people will that
Yeah.
will put them off the edge. Because
Yeah.
I know
But
people
then
in my personal life that have gone through immense amount of shit, and they're the kindest people I know. You know what I
yeah.
mean? And
Well, and
then,
people can have mental illness and be kind too, like, I feel like that was the one
mhm,
thing about the Joker's, like, because they always show it as, like, the mentally ill person goes and kills people, but a lot of times mentally ill people are the ones having bad things happen to them, having
yeah,
violence and
yeah.
abuse happen to them, and they're kind people that wouldn't hurt people.
Yeah,
So
everybody's journey is so different, and the things that happen, you take them the way that you do, and but I don't know, man. It's it could be either or, society or it's just who you are. You know,
yeah.
some people are just born a certain way too. You know, like Dahmer. Dahmer's a good example of that. His had to
Oh,
do
yeah.
with both elements of, like, environment, how he was raised, and who he was. Because Donner had I forgot what they called it, but he had this fascination with internal organs. He liked this, shine. So, there's this, other thing with psychology where, um, uh certain thing aspect that men like shiny things, kind of like things that like a nice gold watch or whatever, and that can be attributed. And this is coming from like I can't remember the doctor's name, but it was like a study on like was it like perverted sexuology kind of thing, where like that same like for like when a girl wears nice lip gloss or whatever, and you see it kind of shine, that is an attraction to certain men, right? But with Dahmer, he liked that shiny thing of the organs on the inside. So
Hmm.
like if you watch that series on
The
Netflix,
the Netflix
there
one, yeah. Yeah, I know he had some kinda condition where he was, like, he was attracted to, like, organs and,
yeah,
like, organs, yeah.
the sliminess, the shininess,
Yeah,
which in like that back part of our mind can
yeah,
actually be attributed to real stuff
yeah.
in sex itself.
I
Like
feel like I'll have to put, like, some kinda disclaimer on this just so, like, whoever listens is prepared for, like, the shit we get.
yeah, man. Yeah, well, it's crazy shit, but that's actually something that this behavioralist or person was explaining, how like that
It
we don't notice those things, but we do see those things and are attracted to it. You know?
and that's, and you know what, it always starts with, animals too, because like, Dahmer started with dissecting animals, and a lot of serial
Yeah.
killers start with, like, torturing or hurting it. That's why whenever somebody, like, I see somebody has, like, no empathy for animals, it's always, like, a red flag to
Oh,
me,
always for
'cause
me.
yeah.
Honestly, for me, it's a red flag when somebody doesn't like cats. Um, what I've noticed in my own life is that most people I've met in my life that there are like they hate like oh absolutely hate cats are people that seem to not like when they're not in control.
Yeah,
Now, I'm not saying that about all dog owners, but a lot of dog owners that I've learned have met that do not like cats, like viscerally hate cats, are people that like dogs only, and that end up feeling like that sense of control, because a dog is different from a cat. A cat kind of like you kind of have to earn a cat's love. Like the cat comes to you, kind of thing, and you can't really grab the cat and be like,
mm,
"Love me," you know. Like with
yeah,
dogs, you can give them a treat and they'll do whatever for you. Man, dogs are ready to. They're man's best friend. cat is a little different that way. So when you have a connection with a cat, it's very special because cats are not that way. They have one. I don't even like to say master, but they have one master. A dog can have a whole family as the master. They'll listen to everybody in the family. They might listen to somebody more than the others, but a cat will only listen to one person. That's it. The cat will only
Yeah.
see that person as their
Well,
cat.
I definitely like cats and dogs, but I'm more of like a dog person. But like
Mhm.
I like
But you like
all
both
of
though. See,
yeah,
that's the difference.
yeah.
What I'm saying is like,
And then it's another thing if somebody's allergic to cats. Like a lot of some people are allergic to cats. Like
mhm.
that's another reason not to. But
Yeah, that's true. But just because you're allergic to something, you have to hate it. You know,
yeah,
like what is it? Um, I'm not necessarily allergic to like certain insects or whatever, but I don't hate the insects.
yeah,
Like and certain animals are probably gross or disgusting in certain eyes and whatever, but you don't have to hate the actual species. You can appreciate it for it is. Like for example, I love skunks, man, and skunks, yo, if they shoot that blast of pheromones that they throw at you, which is necessarily it's not
yeah. Then
urine.
you're gonna smell for
Yeah,
like months and
yeah, but
yeah,
I'm not gonna kill or
yeah,
hate that animal. That's what I'm
yeah,
saying. Like
yeah.
when
Like
you
it's not the
hear
animal.
it's
Um,
not the animal, yeah.
Yeah, but that's interesting what you said about cats because I was just thinking of my friend Harrison has cats and dogs, and like this one cat of his that like doesn't sit near anybody usually, like sat near me and like huddled near me, and he's like, oh, if that cat sits by you, that means like they respect that's something because like usually they don't sit with anybody, so that made me think of
No,
what you
no,
said, like how
no.
that yeah you have to earn their love, yeah,
Yeah, no, my cat Cheetos was like that. He was very, very non-approachable to most people. And he was one of those like the perfect example of like the cat that I'm speaking of. Like he was mainly always I could play on his belly, I could hold him, I could do all those things, but anybody else did would swipe right against your face because he didn't trust anybody else. And you know what I mean? And he was abused by my ex. So
Hmm.
is what it is. Like and that's where he started to change. And that's the thing that I hate the most. It's like you were just saying, a person that goes out there and abuses animals can abuse something else as well. And if you don't have that affinity of love for animals and like they're that you can go and kick one in the face or something. I see fucked up shit like that on the internet all the time. These assholes like mistreating animals, like
Yeah,
doing bad things, and it's just like we need to get the laws in this country more strict when it comes to animal abuse because that animal abuser today is a killer tomorrow. It's
yeah,
the
that's where it starts. So or
correlations
even
right there.
just an abuser, just an abuse. Yeah,
Well, you know what I mean? It's sometimes these abusers, they're abusing a child or their wife or their
yeah,
friend or something like that, and they end up killing them and oh, I didn't know what I did, you know, because they go into that rage mode or
yeah.
whatever.
And
It's
that
just
made me think of another interesting point because it's like you see cruelty in nature and you see cruelty in other animals, but I feel like there's only evil in humans. Like that's a uniquely human thing.
you know what? Why? Because we have this brain up here that we're supposed. Look, man, we make buildings, we make computers, we do all this crazy shit that's godlike almost, right? Um, and then like we're not like necessary. Like for example, me and you, we don't need to go out there and hunt and kill an animal or like do certain things to survive. We've had the technology and the society building that we have everything kind of at our fingertips. We pay for something, you get it. These animals, there is no real cruelty when it comes to nature in that sense. It's all about survival out there with them. Now, if we didn't have this technology, we didn't have these guns, these weapons, this clothes, all that stuff, we'd be doing the same shit as them. We'd be out there running naked, trying to like survive while these predators are trying to kill us. It wasn't that long ago where Smilodons, saber-toothed cats, to people that
Yeah,
don't know Smilodon, um, hunted us. They, you know, and the mammoths and some of those animals did survive with humans at the time. Not dinosaurs, as much as people want to think that. Dinosaurs did not exist with humans. But it wasn't the Flintstones, you know. But we did have some large prehistoric, the cave lion, the short-faced bear, ground sloths. We dealt with all those things, and those things, when we were out there in the savannas with no weapons, we were getting eaten. We were the prey. When we got to the point of being able to make guns and houses and all those things, we became the apex predator in a sense. We're the
Yeah.
top of the food chain
Well, I guess because like we have the ability of like
to doing that.
yeah. Well, and
Yeah,
like with reason and like we have more like analytical minds and
exactly. Hmm.
yeah, because we're not
Like
just doing things to survive. We're just
yeah, no. See, this is the thing. Like, we got to the point of comfort. Now, when once you're done with comfort, then it starts. Your mind wanders more, so we have more time to develop music, literature, all those things. Because we're not running scared anymore. We're not running around
yeah.
with these lions chasing us. So we have time to build the society that we did. So when you have like when somebody says that, like, oh, the cruelty out there in nature, that's just nature. Us, in other sense, we have, like you just said, we have that mind and analytical process that we can defer certain things and not be violent like the animals are. 'Cause they're just doing that to survive. I don't need to, do something to another person to survive, unless, of course, I'm being attacked or something. That's a different story. But I don't need to just walk around my town and just go and just beat the hell out of somebody for my
Yeah.
survival. There's no point in danger. Like, I'm not gonna beat somebody up in line just so I can buy a drink because they're in front of me. An animal probably would do that. An animal would be like, well, if I don't beat them up, my line of survival might be, you know, present abrupted by this larger male bear or something. You know what I mean? They're fighting for mating. They're fighting for survival. They're fighting for territory. But we do that too, but in a certain sense, we do it more civilized. Now, if there's um like a fight or a problem between you and your neighbor, there are people that do some messed up things, yes. But most of the time, you go to the town, you do a complaint, you do it the right way without actually harming them per se. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's
One
the
people when
difference.
they're desperate, I guess like it depends on like I could not like whether people are desperate too. Like sometimes people get into that survival
Yeah.
thing like this. That they have
And
to
what was
fight.
and yeah, and so when you get to that desperate point, what's going on? It's desperate measures. You go back to nature. You go back to
Yeah.
being primordial, savage. What we were, we're not anymore. You know what I mean? Well,
Yeah. But it's interesting like
per
how
se.
both of those could kind of bring out the worst. Like
Hmm.
you could do like things that are you could be cruel and do evil because like you're at a desperation. You can also do it because you have too much and too much power
Hmm.
too. But it can also
Yes,
bring out the best in
good way
humanity.
yeah, good way to link it all together. That was good.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
no,
also like
yeah.
I guess like and what's your view like because I know like religion has different views about it like I know like the Christianity says like oh original sin like we're all but that's more not even necessarily like doing bad that's more like whether or not sin like because I think that could be subjective whether those things that are in religion are wrong or right to me it's just like as long as you're not hurting anybody else like I think it's like just like do what feels right to you.
I think, well, I think honestly that was just kind of like almost like a little rule book to keep everybody, you know, chilled and calm down and build society within each other where you're not doing all these, animalistic things of the sort. But some people take it to a very literal place, and it becomes a book of violence. Honestly, all of them do. When
Yeah.
you give it to the wrong hands, there's people out there that, like, I can honestly say, my grandmother is very religious, and she was a good lady. She was, she did her little praying and stuff like that, but she never was like, if somebody was non-Christian or non-Catholic or whatever, she never was a monster to them. But there's people out there doing atrocities in the name of their God all the time. It's it's awful. but it happens. Um, but as per se, like if it's like, I don't know, like I don't know, I can go into kind of, I don't know, maybe I could go into a little depth of that, but I feel it was more of a control for humans, honestly. You know, it was more to keep us in line. And back in the day, and I mean, there's certain things that the reason is I fight with it myself because I used to be an atheist a long time ago. I'm not anymore. I've seen a good amount of things in my life that I know there's something, but that's my truth. That's my
Yeah.
opinion. That's my thing.
Well, but I'm kind of
Um,
similar. It's not like I believe, but I don't subscribe to a particular religion. But
no,
like
I
I
don't
appreciate
either.
different things in religions, but I also
Hmm.
don't like the dogma. I don't like the dogmatic views of it. But
Yeah, yeah. Um, that's the way I see it. I just um, it is a hot topic because we're we're in some the world is in a war of religions right now. There's what is it like?
Religion's definitely one factor of it. But that's a whole other topic. I mean, it's
Oh yeah,
race and religion. There's a lot of different things to it, but that's a
yeah.
whole
There's a
other
lot of
topic.
factors, but
Yeah,
there's like a religion war all the time on this planet. There's somebody fighting for one god and the other guy fighting for the other god, and blah, 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 blah. And at the end of the day, we should just realize they're both human beings, but they don't. They see the thing is like when we talk about atrocities that happen with groups of people or nations, it's a different thing where it's like when we have these like evil with one person doing bad things, and then when it's like a nation doing something wrong, and they're doing it in the name of their
yeah,
god or the name of that, um they think they're doing the right thing.
yeah.
And
Because
the
that's people think
difference,
other people are doing it, so it must be right. Like,
that herd mentality thing.
yeah,
But when you have one of these guys that's out there murdering their victims, they know what they're doing is wrong most of the time. Like, because they hide it. They hide the evidence. They hide this. They try to get away. They know. That's the difference. They know what they're doing is not good. Now, difference between those like religion, like fanatics, I would say. I'm not gonna point the finger at anybody, but I'm just saying religion fanatics. Um, they think what they're doing is righteous and holy. So what they're doing is for the good of mankind or for the good of their people. Is it though? I mean, to them it is, but I don't know. You know what I mean? Hey, if you're on the other side, no, it's not. You know what I mean?
yeah, true.
I
I
don't know.
guess
Evil,
maybe like it depends, like because it's hard to say. Like, is there times where the ends justify the means or no? Because I'm thinking like a lot of people had to die for like the abolitionist movement. Like I know like John
yeah,
Brown like took people who supported slavery and he like hacked them up. Like, but was it?
yeah,
Yeah, it's like then people then would say he was killing people or like, well, I mean like even Nat Turner killed innocent people, but it's like but the cause like the ending slavery, it's like but their actions actually led to ending slavery. It's like it was wrong, but it's like what was like does the end justify the means or it's like is there ever that's something that sometimes I wonder, but like I mean usually I don't think it does, but
I get what you're saying, and I have always said that if I guess I'm more on that side of things. The end justifies the means. Sometimes shit has to happen a certain way that just to get the ball rolling on something else. Like if there ever was a reason to fight a tyrannical government or in another country or whatnot,
yeah,
um,
like
there's
sometimes
gonna
a lot of
be.
people are gonna die, but the freedom's worth fighting. If the injustice is worth fighting against.
I
Yeah,
mean, look at us in World War II. You know what I mean? Uh, there's a lot of other stuff that happened in that war that have nothing to do, but the fact that a lot of soldiers died, but in the end, the whole Nazi regime was kind of taken out. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Not
a
all
lot
of
of
them.
horrible things had to happen for the Nazi regime to be
Hmm.
defeated. So.
I mean, certain people knew what was going on with the camps in Europe, but the soldiers sure didn't. When they found those camps, they were horrified. Other entities in Europe knew about that. They knew that Auschwitz was running, but
I wonder how
and
much the average German knew. Or
that's the thing. I don't really know to answer that question, but I'm pretty sure that some knew and some didn't because
yeah, but
the way
usually they use the propaganda to kind of. I think from what I
exactly to hide
read,
that
they use
shit.
like they use like a
Yeah,
propaganda to say like they're just relocating them. They use their way. That's what they frame it in a way to get the public to um accept it, and then they downplay what they were doing. From what I remember,
another
what I
thing,
read.
another thing I was gonna say that I completely forgot about is that when you want to take out certain ethnicity, nation, tribe, people, whatever, you start breaking down their art, you start breaking down their history, you start breaking down a bunch of things, and this is what a lot of like conquistadors and conquerors of the history
Yeah,
did. Um, because if you take away their culture and take away who they are, they're not who they are anymore. And to the citizens on your side of things, they'll start seeing them as subhuman or not people anymore. If you create them as monsters, you know how they used to. You ever seen those drawings they used to do of African Americans back in the day when like it was like
oh yeah, yeah. There was even a
crazy
film,
racist.
"Birth of a Nation," where they show.
Yeah, man,
Yeah,
wasn't that like one of the first films that they
yeah,
talk
one of the
that
first
they made?
films, and it was like a KKK. It was showing the KKK as heroes. It was one
Yeah.
of our president's favorite films too. Woodrow Wilson was his favorite film.
Uh,
Yeah,
see what I mean? Like, and they started that bogus science phrenology, I think it was called, where they would study like the bumps on the brain.
yeah,
Like
yeah. The whole
you see it
yeah.
in a did you watch Django Unchained?
I did. Yeah,
Yeah, you remember when
yeah.
he's talking about that, Leonardo DiCaprio, and he's like, and he's about to kill that one girl, and he's like, "I'm gonna shave her head and feel the bumps on her head, or whatever." Like with the
I
phrenology,
think so.
which
Yeah, it was a while ago I saw it. Yeah, but
it was a bogus science, man. It was just to make a certain race inferior to make them feel inferior to the other, you know. And when you have leaders like that that are leading and spreading this propaganda, as you were saying, the people tend to either stay with it or they just try not to be a part of it, not be a part of it in a sense, or they try to kind of like blinders on. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And I feel a lot of the German people around that time were probably doing that. Not all of them are around that time were like evil like the Nazis. It was like, this is where I live. This is what's going on. I have to go to
yeah,
work. I have to feed my family. I don't know what to do. You know,
yeah. And
and
I feel like most people that would do something like the Nazis did, like it to convince like people they wouldn't overtly show what they're doing. So that's why
oh
they'd
no,
have to be yeah.
yeah, that's why they
Because
had
most
that.
people wouldn't, even if they didn't like Jewish people or the people being killed, they wouldn't overtly support, a genocide like that. They'd have to have a cover
Yeah,
to say
no,
that.
yeah, you have to kind of cover it. That's like with other experiments that the U.S. have done too. Like, that those experiments they admitted to, they did in the '60s, I think, or was it '80s in Peru, where they experimented with fuck, what was it called?
I
That
think I remember something like that. Yeah, like
yeah,
the
the disease that Al Capone had. What the hell was that called? Syphilis. They did
oh, okay.
they did experiments with syphilis and a lot of other STDs in Peru
Oh wow.
to see the certain stages, and they told all these people they were giving them certain vaccines, and they admitted to this during Obama's administration. Obama had to stay face national television and tell everybody out
Well, that's
all
really
that shit.
messed up. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a gazillion more of these experiments, and it's like no country's innocent. They've all done crazy shit. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah.
and that's the thing, though. At the end of the day, it's like they're doing those experiments either
Yeah. See, but
to
that's the thing
figure.
about like racism too. Is like even somebody just
Mm,
saying like a dehumanizing thing about people. Like, yeah, it's just words, but it's like indirectly, like those words then lead to something like that. Like, because we could just get away with it because like people don't care about these
mhm,
people because like people don't empathize with these people. So it's
yeah.
like it leads
Uh,
to that even like indirectly, like in a way.
yeah. It's I mean, in certain words and connotations of things you say can have weight to them. So, like one thing that's I mean, in this country we have free speech, right? And you can say whatever you want. You know what I mean? Go ahead and you mean they got those people talking about racist shit in colleges now. Or I don't know if that's still a thing, but I know it was like years ago and there was protests all the time. And they have the right to go up there and speak all the nonsense they want.
Yeah,
That the thing that I always like to say is they may have that right of free speech, but it doesn't mean it doesn't come with a consequence. Now, if
yeah.
I go up on
It doesn't
stage and
mean
I
they
say
can't be criticized for it or be
exactly,
called out on their shit
exactly,
for it. Like that's not.
exactly.
It's not necessarily sense. Like sometimes when people were like claiming, "Oh, they're censoring me," it was just them like pushing back and like being criticized for it, being called out for it. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Because it goes kind of like this, like I can go up on stage and say a bunch of things that offend a lot of people, right? And that is the consequence of that may be that somebody in that audience might not really like what I said, and when I'm walking out of that stage, they punch me right in the face. And that is a consequence that comes with that. Now, is that something that should happen? No, but you can't control how people are going to react to what you say.
yeah,
Now, you could say whatever you want because this is a country of free speech, but be always prepared for somebody might not like what you're saying, and there
yeah,
might be a consequence of that. So sometimes it's kind of like, do you really want to speak all that racist rhetoric on stage? There might be somebody there that's like, I don't like this racist shit, and I'll
yeah,
fuck you up, And just expect that. So either shut the fuck up with the racist shit, or say it and expect to get punched in the face, like people were punching people that were neo Nazis a couple years
yeah.
ago, which I
I
thought
guess
was
the only the only slippery slope is like yeah, that's what you said. Like, because I know this isn't what you're saying is like then it's like because like then sometimes people could like say something's like like they could label just something they don't want to hear, an opinion they don't want out there, opinion that
hmm
like is like, oh, this is racist, this is that, and then like
hmm
try to have that person censored. Like that's the only thing is like then sometimes it could be abused. So like there's always be like consequences for it. But I mean it's like as far as like any kind of rules or regulations on that, I guess that's the only danger with that. It's like
See,
this
but the whole point of that is that just what I mean is just there's always consequences for actions and things that you say. Now, if you're gonna live a life where you're constantly spewing out racist rhetoric or xenophobic or homophobic or transphobic or anything of that sort, be expected to there might be a consequence. That's
yeah,
all I'm saying. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I'm the one that's gonna be out there giving you the consequence. All I'm saying is that I see
yeah.
that a lot when people say certain things, and I'm just like,
Yeah. Well, yeah, freedom of
how did
speech
it not
isn't like
expect to get punched in the
yeah,
face? Like,
yeah, freedom of speech isn't like freedom of consequences. I was yeah, I
hmm
know you weren't saying that. I was just saying like as far as like I
yeah,
was thinking the other people that say that like they want to solve that with like by censoring the person. Like I'm saying
yeah,
like
yeah,
I hate
yeah.
what the person says, but like censoring like it
You can't you
yeah.
can't have one without the other. If you don't want them to have free speech, then be prepared for your censorship too. You can't be speaking pure liberalness and then tell them to censor the right winger. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah. Cuz then they
so
could
you
turn
have
around
to
and do it to you.
exactly. You
Yeah.
have to
And
both
that then
talk.
that without going too much into current events, that has been happening a little bit lately.
Mhm.
Like where it's the
Yeah.
flip is the switch has been flipped a bit on the so
Uh-huh. Exactly. That's the thing. So, you have to expect that.
Like
And
people who censor people who fought against racism back in the day too. Like they tried to censor that, you know. So it's
exactly.
like,
See, that's the. It's almost like you know, if you love history and you like, you really you read about it, or you listen to it in podcasts or watch movies or something like that. I love watching history stuff and reading about history. And what you see is, God damn, man, we're always repeating shit.
yeah,
It's just a constant circle of shit. It's all the same, just different names. All the same characters, just always different names. You know? And it's sad to see that we're a species that doesn't fucking learn. You know what I mean? We don't learn from the bad shit that happened in the past. We just
yeah.
continue
Well, that's
on.
why recent like shit, like people bringing up the bombing of Dresden for, like, you know, when Israel bombing Gaza and stuff. It's like, okay, but
Hmm.
didn't we kind of learn from like World War II that we shouldn't fight war like that? Like even you
We
know,
never
like
learn.
killing
We
civilians
never
and
learn.
yeah,
My one of the best examples I can give you is I will always see this all the time, and it's funny to me. Um, when they announce, they go, they're making another Jurassic Park. Now, the common comment of them making another Jurassic Park is always the same shit. It's always, oh, haven't they learned about the dinosaurs escaping and blah blah blah? No, they fucking haven't. We're human beings. We always think profits before this. How much money can we make? You know, they're doing that right now. They're building a gigantic fucking virus lab in the Amazonian jungle right now. Dude, why? Why are you like, especially in the Amazonian jungle, dude, where there's like just a mass amount of shit that we haven't really
yeah.
discovered?
I don't
And there's
understand. It's like, don't these people have to live on the earth too? They're just like cutting that like we. But then again, like the super wealthy people could probably just like leave the planet too. You know,
Yeah,
like they did in
that's
Don't
that's
Look Up or that.
that's I think that's where it's all going, honestly. If I'm gonna be honest with you, I think that's where it's all going. There's a scientist, like I think like last year, I had read there's some scientist somewhere, I don't know where the fuck. This is like an excerpt of where of something I read. My sources are never, I can never remember names and stuff, but
Yeah,
if it's looked up, it can be found somewhere. Um, Basically, this guy is literally trying to transfer garbage into and make it edible, so that like that's basically what the poor people are gonna eat. We're gonna eat garbage. We're gonna be eat the millionaires' garbage. They're gonna be eating all the good food, and we're gonna be eating recycled bullshit because they already make plastic eggs that people eat in China. Um, we have microplastics and everything. Like, dude, it's just everywhere, you know. So, um, I'm insane. So it's just all shit. You
yeah,
just can't help but laugh, man. Sometimes I just think, I'm like, wow, if I knew
yeah,
this was gonna be like what it is to be an adult in these times where like inflation is crazy. I can't afford to buy a home. Um,
yeah.
money is
And then the
scarce.
boomers are always like, you know, when I was your age, I had this and that. Well, it's like, yeah, well, shit was less expensive then. It's like,
Oh yeah, it was less expensive, and they all got fucking GI Bills, man.
yeah,
Their parents got GI Bills. They
yeah,
they went to school for free. They got a fucking house. They had everything set for them. We didn't have anything. We got hit up with the fucking internet age, and then now robots are taking our jobs, and the inflation is ridiculous. The housing market is being bought up by corporations. Like,
yeah.
the baby boomers could say whatever the fuck they want. They're not living in the time that
Yeah,
we're
well,
living.
even actors like are starting to be replaced by AI and shit. Like, I mean, I thought it
Mhm.
was neat how they did that. That Mark Hamill in the Mandalorian when they made him
Yeah, yeah.
like look like the young one, but it's like that kind of thing is like, wait, are they going to stop hiring actors and just have AI? Like, yeah,
I think that's where it's going too with that. I mean, even the tattoo industry, they already made some robot that can laser tattooing onto your arm. I mean, it's gonna take them a while to
yeah,
figure it out, but they will eventually. But they need to have a robot that can take human movement, because people move, dude. When you're tattooing them,
yeah.
they move around. and
And,
they're
and that's
breathing,
another
and
thing.
it's
I
like,
think the inhumanity is like when people aren't affected by it, because like these people at the top that are, you know, they care about how they're going to make a bigger profit, and then since they're not affected by any of the people who lose jobs because of it or any of the people who get screwed over because of it, it's like
mhm.
then their humanity's gone because like they're so above
Yeah,
everybody else. It's almost kind of like a god complex too. I think too, like thinking they're god because they have all this power. So
yeah. You want to talk about real monsters? Corporations, man.
yeah,
Fuck them. I'll say it right there. They're the worst. They're the ones destroying our
yeah.
planet, destroying humanity. You
Yeah,
know, I
governments aren't even. People talk about the government. The government isn't shit
it
anymore.
has
Corporate,
nothing. They have shit to do with it, of course, right?
yeah,
But
but they're kind of like they're kind of like the corporation's little bitch. Like the government's
yeah, dude, they
the small
decide
bitch.
everything. They got the lobbyists in there, fucking getting everybody convinced. Oh no, here's a couple grand. No, grand, fuck that. Couple million right here. You're gonna get those laws passed so that my company can keep dumping shit into that river without anybody batting an eye. Thank you. Okay, good. You're gonna be the president. You're gonna be the congressman. You're gonna be the senator. They're all bought, man. So it's like it's all a shit show, you know.
Yeah, I think we have
And
monsters running the world. That's the thing. Like maybe there is like that's another thing. Is like maybe people who want that much power kind of have like an evil.
And the
This
thing is that and the thing that pisses me off sometimes is, like, people admire these monsters
yeah,
because they're like, "Oh, successful business
yeah,
person."
yeah. Like
Do
it's
do
one thing
you
to want to be like successful, like with what
what's
you do, but it's another thing I think to want to be in power over people.
like, yeah, that's it. Yo, to get to those certain spots, you have to literally trample people over and climb over them
Yeah,
to get to that corporate ladder. That's not how it should work, man. It should work by skill. Some of them is nepotism too.
yeah,
Like, "Oh, you're great for this job, but my son's better." So and their son sucks.
yeah.
He just wants to put him in the
And they
company.
use it as an excuse to treat everybody like shit. Like they'll go into like a restaurant, treat the waiter like shit, be like, "Oh, I am this. You
Oh
know who
yeah,
I am." Like, yeah,
yeah. There's a couple. Yeah, like actors are very, very well known for that fucking shitty behavior. Fucking Kevin James is like that. Kevin James, you look him up in Reddit. He doesn't let the fucking waitress talk to him.
yeah.
He literally tells her, "No, did they
And
tell you not
he
to
isn't
speak
even
to me?"
that funny, or I don't even know. Like,
I like the show King of Queens. That's about it.
it was alright.
But
Yeah,
but the thing is, like, you know, you get this power trip from yourself, and it's almost, but it's our fault too, man. We do that too because we don't do that as like
yeah,
ourselves, but we praise these people.
yeah,
We hold them up. The Basically Hollywood, the politicians, all these fucking stage actors, basically, they're all on this big giant like stage, right? And they're on our TVs, they're bigger than life kind of thing. Who does that remind you of? That reminds you of the deities, the Greek gods, the things that people looked up to back in the day when they had multiple gods. These celebrities, these musicians, these politicians, these presidents, they're all gods to
yeah.
most of
Because
these
it's a
people.
secular age. Maybe that's
Hmm.
yeah.
And it's like,
Maybe like because like there's no like religion isn't dominant. Maybe that's why people are drawn to this. But I
yeah,
think it's also like
because
people find in like politics, like because like people don't go to
hmm
church and stuff like they used to. So like they like they find it in other things. People are
yeah,
looking
yeah.
for like a meaning and stuff.
Exactly, and they find it a lot in these people on TV, and they hold them up to a certain degree.
Yeah,
And one thing I've always noticed too is that whenever they're trying to take somebody down, it's always like what is it? The case always has to do with something sexual. If you ever notice when they take down a politician, it's always something like that. It's never like money. It's never this and that. It's always something like an abuse or something like that. It's like they know this person did this and they hold it
yeah.
until they don't need him anymore, and they're like,
When also they
"Yeah,
never get in
we don't."
trouble for anything like they did. Um,
A long time ago.
that the other people in power were consenting were like going along with too. Like
Yeah,
like
it's like a
none of our presidents have been tried for war crimes, and pretty much all of them pretty much probably should.
oh yeah, they did a lot of that shit. Um, it's just I don't know. It's all crazy shit, but in the end, yeah, that's basically the real monsters are the ones.
Yeah. Okay, that was the first half of my conversation with my friend Jorge about the darker side of humanity and whether all of us are capable of evil and everything else we discussed and everything else we're discussing in this. I decided to, since this conversation went on 2 hours, I didn't want to, there was a lot of good stuff I didn't want to cut out. So, and I like to keep kind of the off the cuff, candid feel with my episodes. So I decided to divide this into two parts. So this is the end of part one, and you can listen to part two, which should be out soon, for the second part of this conversation.